Bonjour les amis. Bonjour, thank you for joining me today. Welcome to Marseille. Bonjour. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes for everyone to arrive while you enjoy the sights and the sounds of a great neighborhood. Could you let me know if the sound is good for you? That would be helpful. Sounds great, perfect, thank you so much. I'm always hoping it is, but you never know. The sun has started to set, so the light should be good for us today. Those of you who have come to Marseille before are probably recognizing this great neighborhood. It's known as Le Panier, the basket, P-A-N-I-E-R. And what I have in mind for us today is to just stroll along the streets of Le Panier. There are many. Obviously, we won't be able to see all of them, but this is a really interesting neighborhood, and I hope that at the end of this stroll you get a better idea, a better feeling for it, a better feel for it. Huh? Colorful facades, as you can see. Some street art, not everywhere. Bonjour les amis, I see you pop in. Great to see you. This is Au Panier Breton, so this is a crepe place, but it's named after the neighborhood, Au Panier. So in case you don't know Marseille yet, Marseille is the second largest city in France. It's over 860,000 people. And we do have arrondissements in Marseille. We have in fact 16, and currently we are in the second arrondissement of Marseille. Bonjour, welcome. Lots of pigeons indeed. And a nice sample of the local accent here. Rue Fontaine de Caylus. Look at the pigeons. Look at the pigeons. It's goûter time for the pigeons. Now I hope the cell signal will remain strong because we're going through some pretty old streets. If it does drop, don't worry. I know how to speed up through the tough sections, and don't go anywhere because I'll keep filming. If you just joined, bienvenue. We are in a neighborhood in Marseille known as Le Panier. This lighthouse on the right-hand side is temporary. It is actually it's like a play, a cultural event that's been going on this weekend. They are trying to draw attention to the rising level of oceans, and at night they're going to play some music and project some movies or pictures on the facades of these buildings. So right now nothing much is happening, but you can hear the sound of the waves though. Oh, thank you for sending some stars, thank you. Can you hear the waves? So I'm going to go down this street, and basically we're going to stroll through this neighborhood of Le Panier, and as we do this, I will point out some things of interest, tell you a little bit more about the history of this great neighborhood, and talk about Marseille as well. On y va, mes amis. Let's go. Look at these gentlemen enjoying the day. Bonjour, messieurs. So I did some scouting earlier this afternoon. I had lunch in the neighborhood. I was here yesterday morning when it was empty. And this afternoon there were a lot of tour groups apparently coming from cruise ships. So I hope they're done now and we get the neighborhood back so the streets are peaceful. So you can see some street art. There isn't as much as in another neighborhood in Marseille that's known as Le Cours Julien, C-O-U-R-S, Julien, like Julien, the first name. This is Le Panier. So you will see some street art, but it's not everywhere. Look at this. An urban garden. This is what you do. It's very slippery. I'm going to watch my step. There we go. Now, if you've been to Nice, this neighborhood reminds me of the old Le Vieux Nice, the old part of Nice. Attaque de pigeons. Bonjour, monsieur. I'm trying not to disturb locals because they like to spend time outside. Look at the facade of this store. So this is quite the lively neighborhood. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. Again, we might have some issues with cell signal, but we should be okay overall. I want to stop in front of this mural here. I shared a photo of it already. This, my friends, is Marseille. You have 4 men playing cards. You have a representation on the city on several hills. We are on one of them right now. And at the very top, watching over the city, Notre de la Garde, that golden virgin that's magnificent and dominates the city and protects the whole city. So if you had to represent Marseille, you would probably show some men indeed playing cards. If you've heard of Marcel Pagnol, who wrote many books and plays and filmed some movies, he's the one who created a trilogy in the 1940s called Marius, Fanny, César. And it took place in Marseille. And in the first movie, Marius, there was a famous card game like this one. Men, friends playing, arguing. And this came to represent Marseille a little bit, at least all around France. But you will notice the gentlemen are clearly not all Caucasian. And the artist has chosen to represent he has chosen to represent different ethnicities, and this is what Marseille is all about. This is a port city. Ever since it was created a long, long time ago, it's welcomed everyone and anyone who wanted a second chance, and the city is quite proud of that. So this street might be a little tricky for the signal. I'm going to walk through it really fast. Tu me fends le cœur. That's right, I just saw somebody quote that. That was part of the line from the movie during that card game. Yes, you're right. Diversity. Marseille, this is a signature trait of Marseille. Now, the funny thing, though, is no matter where people came from, no matter what their background or religion or color is, as soon as they open their mouths, all of them speak with the same accent, which is very recognizable, the accent from Marseille. And this is the unifying factor. They all love this city. Here we arrive at one of the prettiest squares we will see today. This is Le Bar des 13 Coins. It has quite a pretty zinc inside. Now, I don't know if you know this soap opera, this series on French TV. It's been running for almost 20 years, I think. It's called Plus belle la vie. And that TV series, which so many French people know, has been filmed not really in this area, but represents a neighborhood inspired by this area, known as the Mistral. That's the name of the neighborhood in the series. And here on this square, you kind of recognize what they show in the TV series. So a lot of fans come here hoping to capture some of the sights from the show, but a lot of it was filmed in the studio. However, there is a bar called the Mistral in the series. This one is the Bar des 13 Coins, and if you go inside, it feels very similar to the one in the series. Welcome, bienvenue les amis. I see your names pop up. Bonjour, bonjour, welcome. We are taking a stroll in what is probably Marseille's most popular, most visited neighborhood, most touristy as well. Neighborhood, it's called Le Panier, the basket. The show I'm talking about is called Plus belle la vie. It's not Marseille, which is a newer show. So when you talk about Provence, when you talk about southern France, and especially if you talk about Marseille, you talk about Pétanque. Do you see the name on that window? On that front shop, front or whatever we call it, facade. And Pétanque, this game that you play with metal balls, is very popular all over the south. And I thought I would take you inside this store, Maison de la Boule, which is kind of a smaller museum of sorts. It's mostly a boutique. It's also a, it's kind of a museum, I guess. But we're going to go in. I want to show you a few things in here. Toc toc. Bonjour Patrick. Ça va?
Ça va, très bien.
J'ai tous mes amis. Nous avons 160 personnes qui nous regardent.
Ah,
Je fais faire un petit tour.
allez-y.
Merci. So this is a company called La Boule Bleue, the blue ball, that's been around since the early 20th century. There is a game of pétanque, which is the provençal pétanque, that's been around forever, and the game, and then eventually pétanque came from that, les jeux de boules provençal. And so this company has been around since before pétanque, in fact. So if you come here, you can purchase your equipment, what you need to play at a very good level, even competition level. And they have all sorts of different metals to create your boule. And, you know, it could be stainless steel, it could be carbon, it could be, and the heavier the ball, the more expensive it is. And you buy them by 3. So in this place here, you have some awards that people have won in competitions. Ah, les lunettes. And look. Ah, it's frozen. Je crois que j'ai un problème de couverture. Ah, so if you can see this, this is the place where you can practice. You can train when you buy those beautiful pétanque balls. And once you have them, you buy them by 3. You can also get a case. You can actually get a case to carry them to go play. I think you can tell which one I would go for. This is the website of the company where you can order your custom pétanque set. It's called laboulebleu.fr, and they will ship. They will ship definitely if you need them to. And this is, you probably recognize it, the cochonnet. You recognize this when you play pétanque. This is what you are trying to get, what you are trying to hit. So top quality, they've been around since the early 20th century. They work with people who play at a very high level and people who just play for fun. So you can come here and try them right here on the court, or you can order them and they can personalize them with your first and your last name even. Ça va Patrick?
Très bien.
C'est calme aujourd'hui?
Tranquille.
Tranquille aujourd'hui, vous en profitez? Je leur ai donné le site internet, comme ça il y aura peut-être des commandes. À très bientôt. Merci, au revoir Patrick. So I would stay longer, but I have other things to show you. I hope you've enjoyed this because this is really Provence and this is really Marseille as well. In this little street here called Impasse Sainte-Françoise, we have in fact a gîte, a place where you can stay, and there's also an artist studio. I'm not going to go in too deep because of the signal, but I just want to give you a peek at some of the work this artist or those artists are doing here. These are sardines, the famous sardines from Marseille, and we will talk about those and why they are a big deal in this city. And again, a representation of the city sitting on top of the hill, the cathedral, the basilica. Look at these. Isn't that pretty? And so there's a place where you can stay at the end of this. Wouldn't that be fun? And here's a representation of the bar. Allez-y, allez-y. C'est gentil, allez-y, y a pas de souci. Merci. Here's a representation of the bar where that I just showed you on from that little square. Yeah, this is very Marseille, you're right. Look at the details around this door. It's very vibrant, very colorful, diverse. People are pretty loud. They are always in animated conversations, quite interested in others as well. I've had only friendly interactions with shopkeepers like Patrick we just met and other people as well. Just very outgoing, and that's something that happens in the south. Here's that little square again, La Place des 13 Cantons, and the little shop we went to. We are going to take the lifeline now. We're going to follow the lifeline of this neighborhood, La Rue du Panier, the street of the panier, the basket. Apparently there was an inn or restaurant a long time ago here where there was a sign outside with a basket, and they say that's where the name came from, but there is proof that this street has been around forever, since ancient times. So this is in fact the oldest neighborhood in Marseille. I don't know if I mentioned that before. We have some people left, but not as many as earlier, which is good. So lots of interesting things going on. You have artist communities. This is une bibliothèque solidaire. What this means is the books are for you to buy, and you choose the price yourself. Prix libre on the sign here means you decide how much the book is worth, and then you put the money inside the guitar. This is how you pay. You'll see lots of young people here. You see old people who've been here for decades, probably still living in those homes. Now this is a coveted neighborhood, but because the homes are not, I can take off my mask now, I guess. Because the homes are not very big, there's typically one room per floor. People who come from big cities like Paris and want to buy property in Marseille, and they're doing that in increasing numbers, are not always happy with, the size of the apartments in this neighborhood. However, everybody comes here. You can see why. There's a great vibe here. It's like a village. Lots of people know each other. You see them chatting. Case in point, right there. Boutiques. A lot of workshops as well, artist workshops. And then the usual stores you'll find in Provence. Artisanal soap makers, leather makers, and restaurants, of course. This neighborhood has survived a lot since it was founded. Another square that I really like, lots of restaurants. It was a very busy scene at lunchtime. No, we're not in Paris, dear. We are in southern France, in Marseille. I've been touring Provence for about a week now. I hope you've enjoyed some of the content I've created on Facebook and Instagram, the virtual tours I shared as well on Facebook. And this is one more today. It's been a lot of fun. We went to Avignon and some towns around Avignon, and now we are based in Marseille. More street art here. Very pretty light, late afternoon light here on the street. So vibrant. It's a great, great neighborhood. No wonder it's so popular with locals and visitors alike, which is wonderful. Here's another piece of street art I really like. I tend to prefer the ones that show the city, what the city means to the artist. They're usually locals. And this is a giant whale. You can see, look how impressive this is. And you see Marseille, and then you see Notre de la Garde, the basilica, right there on top. The Marseillais call her bonne mère, la bonne mère, the good mother, because she protects them. I went up to the top of the hill yesterday. You can take a bus to get there, or you can hike it. And it's quite impressive to see the interior of that basilica in the Byzantine style, I would say. Lots of ceramics as well, ex votos, which are gifts in the shape of boats that people have given the Virgin. as thank yous or as, you know, hoping for a good outcome in a situation of crisis. It's a very moving place. We are on Rue de la Charité, and this is the former Hospice de la Charité. This is a village-like neighborhood, but we do have some really interesting landmarks here, historic buildings actually protected. Hospice de la Charité, you see this old sign. So a long time ago, this was a place where poor people could find shelter. And then it went through different phases, obviously, and then it eventually in the 20th century was run down, and Le Corbusier, the famous architect who did a lot in and outside of Marseille, convinced the city to restore it. So this is beautiful Baroque architecture from the 17th century. It is now a museum. I will show you the sign in a second. I want to point out the galleries on the side, on both sides. Look at that. So this is a former hospice, really, turned into a cultural center. The dome is beautiful up there. So let's look at the sign for the museum. If you come to Marseille, you may be interested in visiting this. You have on the second floor here a museum dedicated to the arts of Africa, African, Oceanians, and Amerindian arts. And again, you need to pay a small fee to get in, but it's nothing big. Beautiful in this light, isn't it? So, village-like neighborhood, Le Panier, but also some historic landmarks, protected monuments, des monuments classés, as we say. Here is the peaceful square now, so southern to me, with the platane, the plane trees that provide shade in the summer. Bonjour, bonjour, welcome if you just joined. We are in Le Panier, one of Marseille's most popular neighborhoods, most visited neighborhoods, on one of many squares like this one. And we're going to crisscross around this main street, La Rue du Panier, we were on just a second ago. And so I can show you some of the sights here. And when I say this neighborhood has survived a lot, it really has. In the 19th century, our old friend Napoleon III, remember how much work he did in Paris, also tackled cities outside Paris. Marseille was one of them. A lot of big streets were carved out, just like the same thing that happened in Paris, roughly. And they were hell-bent on destroying part of Le Panier, which was really a poor working-class neighborhood where a lot of fishermen lived. And fortunately, or fortunately or not for Napoleon III, the Second Empire collapsed, and he could never get that carried out, which is probably a good thing for the people here. I love this one, Les Apéros du Panier, because of the reference. Yeah, that's Marseille too. The reference to Les Apéros, apéritif of course, but there are several interesting things here. You see the man drinking his pastis, that very strong but very refreshing drink that people enjoy so much in southern France and in Marseille in particular. It has a very strong anise taste or licorice taste. He also has a jersey. On the right-hand side, you see a logo, the blue logo. And the jersey is the jersey of the famous local soccer club, the OM, l'Olympique de Marseille. So there's a lot of pride in the city, a lot of love for the city, and there's definite love for this soccer team. This is a store that sells soap and other artifacts, local gifts, but quality gifts, handmade. I'm trying to see if this car is going to run me over. I think it will. Oh. Okay, he's through. Good. And you can see the fish again, this sardine I was telling you about. You see it hanging in the window here? I will tell you the story about the sardine of Marseille. This is a great restaurant. They're putting things away now. We had tables set out here. This is where I had lunch today. Lovely spot. And the restaurant is called Le Clan des Cigales. Le Clan des Cigales, cicadas, les cigales, that are a constant background here. Outside cities, of course. Delicious food, very efficient service. And I will share later the photo of what I had, which is typical of Marseille. Look at this one. And this is the Rue des Cordelles, if you are following online. Okay, I hope I have a good coverage here so we can see another side street. So the sardine of Marseille, huh? They love telling that story. It's passed down from generation to generation. The story of how a small fish, a small sardine, once blocked the entrance of the giant port of Marseille. Well, the true story is that it wasn't a fish. It was the name of a boat that was slightly modified to sound like sardine. And it crashed on the rocks outside the harbor or the port. And this is why it blocked the entrance. But of course, that's the part they never tell. They just tell you the story of how a small fish, a sardine, actually blocked the entrance of the port. So the sardine is everywhere, in soap shops, craft shops. You'll see that little fish represented in many different ways. It is one of the icons, I guess, of Marseille, just like the soccer club, just like Pastis or Petanque. You have clothing hanging from the windows. No dryers here. Well, this city has over 300 days of sun a year, so I'm sure they do fine. Now, this neighborhood, as I was saying, is the oldest in Marseille. Marseille was originally settled by the Greeks in 600 BC, which means it's much older than Paris. When the Romans arrived, they didn't settle Marseille, they settled Aix-en-Provence, the competing city, not too far from here. But here in Le Panier, I see the restaurants are closed now. They'll reopen some of them on Sunday. It's quiet again, which is wonderful. The Panier survived the 19th century remodel by Napoleon III, but even more, it survived the Nazi. In 1943, Hitler decided that this neighborhood was riddled with crime and deprivation and that it had to be eradicated. And he managed to blow up, kick out 20,000 people and blow up the lower part of the neighborhood that had to be rebuilt and fixed up after the war. So this is a neighborhood that's been through a lot. And even though they've fixed up the buildings, amazing what paint will do, and it's become this very popular, very touristy neighborhood now, it's still a working class neighborhood. And pretty much like Marseille, lots of people come here to get a second chance. And there's a lot of solidarity in this neighborhood. It's famous for it. When you come here in the morning and they open the shops, you see them talk to each other. They all know each other. It's pretty obvious. So again, we are on La Rue du Panier, which is the lifeline of the neighborhood. So if you visit, it's easy to just crisscross and take a side, just check out the side streets like we did. There are quite a few of them. And then come back to this one that gets you across it. Petite épicerie, a little grocery store. Now we're going to take another street I really like, La Rue des Deux Moulins. La Rue des Moulins, sorry, not des Deux Moulins. Thought I was in Paris for a second. Rue des Moulins. Look at that. This is a brocante, or a seller of used things. Chez Lucas. Lucas seems to like bags, travel bags and suitcases. Thank you for the stars, friends. That's very generous. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so this is the street where trees grow out of trunks. I had not seen that before. Trunks. How about that? So you can tell we're on a hill. It's pretty obvious in some of the streets, like this one. Now, La Rue des Moulins, back in ancient times, this hill was very windy and it was very rural. There were windmills here in the 16th century, believe it or not. Bonjour, monsieur. There were windmills. They are all gone now. And now the little square on top of the street has been turned into a village square with its own little school. I saw the kids come out of school yesterday. So I'll turn around because we need a better peek at la Rue des Moulins. Look. Isn't this lovely? So I took you here on purpose. I know a lot of people don't really know Marseille. Heck, a lot of French people for decades wouldn't want to hear about Marseille. Bad reputation, crime, drug trafficking, gun violence. But I'll tell you what happened because of COVID. Last summer and this summer, 2020, 2021, they have been swamped with French tourists, especially Parisians, who for decades didn't want to come here and are now rediscovering how cool the city has become, how much money has been invested in culture and infrastructure, especially by the harbor, by the port, by the water. Look at this house. Believe it or not, in ancient times, there was a Roman temple right here, right about where we're standing. And like I said, in the 16th century, a lot had changed already. We had windmills grinding grain. And today, we have a lovely little square. It's been maintained, redesigned in the 19th century. Now you see those lower houses, they are built on a water tank apparently, like a big water supply of some sort, which I find interesting. They're very low. But again, just like in Paris when we strolled, and I always showed you, in the working class neighborhoods, the buildings were never very high. You see? So I was here yesterday morning on Friday when the kids were coming out of school for lunch. There were moms and kids playing. It just felt like you were in a village. And that's why we're here today, to show you that Marseille is not just a big crazy city, a dangerous city. Marseille has lovely areas. It has changed a lot and it will change even more. And there's no way to be bored here. People watching for one is absolutely incredible. The food is wonderful. Mediterranean food, specialties. People are pretty friendly, hot-blooded and loud, but friendly. If you tell them you love their city and you mean it, you will be surprised of how kind they are and how helpful. They've so been used, I guess, to having people badmouth Marseille that they're always very appreciative when somebody shows interest and is genuine about it. I do love this square. Yeah, it feels southern, doesn't it? The shade of the trees, the platane, the plane trees. It's very pretty. So the little school is right here on the right-hand side, typical school, the brick walls, and they were having a vide grenier today, vide grenier, which empty your attic, which really means a yard sale. And lots of cars were parked here, parents' cars, and they were all going through that gate over there. But now it's all quiet again. Late afternoon, the sun will be setting soon. So great diversity in terms of the houses. I mean, there aren't two alike, but it doesn't matter, does it? It's a lot like Marseille. It's imperfect. It's not a postcard. It doesn't try to be a postcard. It's just itself. Take it or leave it. I'll take it. After this trip, I'll definitely take it and I'll be back here. For those of you who joined late, we are strolling around Marseille in a lovely neighborhood known as Le Panier, the basket, the oldest neighborhood in town. Up on a hill, there are several here. I'm not saying there are no dangerous neighborhoods left here. Like in any big city, especially one that size, there are some dangerous areas where I probably wouldn't go. But if you stay downtown, like in most cities, it feels very safe to me. But it can be disconcerting. It's very diverse, like we discussed. And this is not the image that a lot of people have about France. Even if you go to some of these provençal villages, they feel different from this big city. I think it's good to get exposed to all of it, to really know what France is all about. And you'll need to leave Paris to do that. And you'll need to leave postcard perfect places. Very easy to come here from Paris, by the way, less than, I think it's 3 hours and 15 minutes by TGV, by high-speed train, super convenient. Good public transportation, decent, trams, metro, buses, affordable, and you can walk everywhere. Oh good, we have a little bit of time left. I was hoping to show you the other side, so that's perfect. So here we catch a very steep street. You see the name right here. It's called Montée, which means climb, des Accoules. So we kind of came from that area back there because they all connect, all these streets. So they really do all connect. Merci. Look at the Rue Beauregard. That's a great name for that street because it is beautiful. See, everybody's taking photos. Very photogenic city, very photogenic neighborhood, very photogenic streets. Il n'y a pas de mal, madame, merci. And so we're going to go down this way. So we're going to leave the heart of Le Panier now and head down closer to the Vieux Port, the old harbor. Now, I saw a comment saying you'd like to see the new port area. You'll have to go back to what I shared earlier when I got here on Friday. I shared a short video on Instagram of the connection between the renovated fort known as Saint-Jean and the brand new museum dedicated to Mediterranean cultures, the Musem. You have to go back and see that. I've also shared some photos. Another artist gallery, though there aren't that many if you compare with the town where I took you last week, Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, which is literally dotted with art galleries. Very different atmosphere there. That's what I call postcard perfect. It's fun to visit. See how quiet it is now? All right, let's go down these. Better to go down than to go up this thing. I'm telling you, I've done both. If you could smell the air, I wish I could share with you. There is a soap maker down the street from me, one of the last artisanal ones, the real Marseille soap, which is very natural and very good for you. In fact, thanks to COVID, Marseille soap manufacturers have been extremely successful in the last year and a half. I wish you could smell the air. I can smell the soap in the air. I like this little shop here. It sells souvenirs, but fun souvenirs. You see this sign here. It says La Cagole. This woman, this sexy looking woman, this is a local beer. Comes in different varieties, and if you come to Marseille, you need to try the beer named La Cagole. Now, I spent an entire French class in my online conversation boot camps with students a few months ago discussing what a cagole is. in southern France and in particular in Marseille. She's a woman who's really colorful, let's just say, provoking, both in the way she dresses and behaves. But she's a good person, she's interested in others, and she's free. She's a very free-spirited woman. So that's the name they gave to that beer company, La Cagole. Now, there's a very humorous sign here that I need to show you. Look at that. The sign here says, by order of the City Hall, arrêté municipal, Marseillaise, Marseillais, people from Marseille, et étrangers, it's spelled with an S, which means strangers, foreigners, suite à la trop forte demande mondiale, following global demand that was too strong, de notre véritable savon de Marseille for our authentic Marseille soap, il ne sera délivré qu'1 kilo par semaine et par famille. We can only give you 1 kilo of soap per week and per family, jusqu'à nouvel ordre, merci. Indefinitely, until further notice, thank you. And it's signed Mr. Landolfi, who is probably the owner of the boutique, and then he made an exception. He said, sauf pour les collègues et les filles sympathiques, except for colleagues, our colleagues, and nice girls. Ha ha ha. So yeah, just stressing the fact that Marseille soap is as big as ever, and especially with COVID, where washing your hands and staying clean has become such a big deal. Well, guess where people go? To the authentic natural soap made in Marseille. I'm going to keep going for about 10 minutes and then we will wrap up, maybe a little before that. I'm taking us closer to the port. We are leaving the upper section of the Panier. This is probably my favorite thing that I've seen in this neighborhood, this beautiful piece of work here. I think it really helps explain the relationship that the Marseillais have with their city. There's a tribute written on it. It says, merveilleuse cité, marvelous city, ancrée en Méditerranée, anchored in the Mediterranean. Et récifs t'entourent, rocks are around you, surround you. Soleil te réchauffe, the sun warms you up. Eau te rafraîchit, the water refreshes you. Îlot te protège, islets protect you. Longue est ton histoire, long is your story. Libéré est ton peuple, free is your people. Étendues sont tes plages, far-reaching are your beaches. I brought this up with a gentleman I met in Le Panier yesterday as I was waiting for a table to have lunch. And I said I was really touched by the connection that I saw in a lot of the street art for the city, you know, between the people and the city. And I said there's a lot of affection there, you can tell. And very seriously, he stopped me and he said, not affection, madame, passion. As you come down this way, here is La Savonnerie, the soap maker I was telling you about. Great products. Soap in all shapes and sizes, and liquid soap, solid soap. So you come back down, and when you get closer to the port, which is right behind these buildings, you can see a lot of newer buildings that are not necessarily pretty. But remember what I told you about the Nazi and Hitler destroying a good chunk of this neighborhood, and everything had to be rebuilt after the war. And a lot of course, historic buildings were destroyed in the process. That's a similar story to my city in Tours in the Loire Valley. I want to show you here on the right a little square that's really easy to... Bonjour, monsieur. A square that's really easy to miss. I just said hi to the restaurant owner, and I'm going to point out this restaurant as well because it's excellent. I was here yesterday. This is a cute little square. It's a very old little square. There used to be a convent here, and all that's left is that building here. It's called La Place des Augustines. And that's all that's left of the convent here. Hey, the bells are going. The restaurant I'm talking about is called L'Effet Clochette, the Tinkerbell effect. The gentleman is from Corsica. He works with his daughter. The food is delicious, local specialties. I shared a photo yesterday. Here is the restaurant with the blue awning, and the owner is the gentleman with gray hair. His daughter is the lady with a ponytail. Marseille has an amazing cathedral, La Major. The Major is the nickname. But I think locals prefer the Basilica. Let's go see the church that's making this pretty song. The name is L'Église des Accoules. It's been here since the Middle Ages and destroyed, but rebuilt in the 19th century. Beautiful bell tower. You're going to see it in a second. There you go. Look at the bells. This is one of the oldest parish churches in Marseille. A few historic buildings that survived the destruction of World War II and later. We do have a Hotel Dieu here too, and prepare to be impressed. This is the former hospital known as the Hotel Dieu, which was rebuilt in the 18th century and is now a luxury hotel. And to wrap up, friends, I shall go down this remodeled plaza without getting run over. Another historic building that is part of the Hotel de Ville, the city hall today. Merci, monsieur. See how friendly they are? And he said, de rien, with that delightful southern accent. De rien. And see the newer buildings I was telling you about? So again, kind of a mix because they had no choice. Let's get through this and I'll take you to the water and then I'll wrap up. You can see locals right outside the Hotel de Ville. This building is actually the former Palace of Justice, the one here. And they used to carry out executions outside on this plaza, but it's been completely remodeled. And here we are walking towards Marseille's Le Vieux Port, the old port. A beautiful area these days, great for pedestrians and bikes. And I want to stop this stroll as we can look at La Bonne Mère, the Good Mother, Notre Dame de la Garde, who watches over this city, this great city. Now, tomorrow, I have another stroll in a completely different area of Marseille, and I'm going to run it on YouTube for Friends with Vero club members. If you have been thinking about joining the club, now would be a great time. I share exclusive content with my club members, patrons all the time. And this is just one of several live events they'll be invited to this month. And I'm wondering how I'm going to get across this. I don't think I can because they have put up fences. So, not to worry, there's always a way. I will go around it. This is the side of the Hotel de Ville, by the way. It's kind of magnificent one. So we'll wrap up by the water in 2 or 3 minutes. On my right is a house from the 16th century, survived all the destruction, known as La Maison Diamantée, the diamond house. It's been here since the 16th century. Look at the size of these containers with olive trees, of course. It looks like they're barring. I'm not going to be able to take you to the water, friends. I might just have to stop here, in fact, unless this gentleman knows. Like me, he's kind of stuck. So there she is, Notre de la Garde, the basilica with the golden statue of the Virgin sitting on top, dominating the whole entire city and protecting it at once. So if you'd like to join us tomorrow, consider joining the Friends with Vero club on Patreon. All that information will be in the video notes. Before I wrap up, I'm going to say a quick hello. Thank you for joining me today in Marseille. I hope that this stroll has helped change a little bit the perception that some people have about this incredible city. It's just a small peek at one neighborhood. There's a lot more to see, especially by the water. That's where we'll be heading tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I am a tour guide. I have a virtual tip jar on PayPal, and your donations really help me. They go towards the cost of creating these tours. As you can imagine, especially when I'm traveling, there are costs to running these live tours. So any donations is gratefully appreciated. I think you can tell I love Marseille. Then again, I am a city collector, a city lover. But I don't love all cities I visit. This one though, there's something here that, I don't know, that rings true, that's authentic, and I love it. And I'll be back. My brother was here and my parents too. Salut Georges. I will see you soon, friends. À bientôt.